Your phone buzzes, an email pings, and a notification flashes, all demanding your attention right now. This constant pull to react is the background noise of modern life. But what if your greatest power lies not in your speed of response, but in your ability to pause? The ancient Stoics discovered a profound secret, a forgotten power they called stillness. This is not about doing nothing. It is an active, deliberate choice to reclaim control. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. He was describing the tranquility of a soul that refuses to be disturbed by every passing storm. This video is a journey into that calm eye of the hurricane. We will explore the remarkable psychological and practical transformations that happen when you learn to stop reacting and start choosing your response with purpose. You will discover how to build an unshakable inner core of peace, a clarity that cuts through chaos, and a resilience that external events cannot break. What does it truly feel like to live a day without being jerked around by every distraction and drama? By the end, you will know exactly how to access that state and make it your own. How often do you feel your peace is determined by the world outside you? The entire structure of a tranquil mind rests on a single, foundational principle. This is the core insight every student of Stoicism must grasp first, the bedrock upon which everything else is built. It is called the Dichotomy of Control. 2,000 years ago, the philosopher Epictetus, born a slave, laid it out with breathtaking simplicity. He said, "Some things are up to us, and some things are not up to us. Our own judgments, our impulses, our desires, and our aversions, these are within our power. They are up to us. But our body, our property, our reputation, and our public office, these are not entirely up to us. They belong to the realm of the external. The ultimate source of our anxiety and frustration is the exhausting, impossible effort to control what is not ours to command." Think of the last time you received harsh criticism, perhaps in a performance review at work or a negative comment online. The words themselves, the opinion of the other person, that is an external event. It is not up to you. You have zero control over what someone else has already said or thought. But your internal world, your interpretation of those words, your decision to see it as a personal attack or as potentially useful data, and your chosen response, whether to react defensively or to respond with thoughtful consideration, that is entirely and completely up to you. This is the pivot point. This is where your power resides. The stillness we seek is found precisely in that gap, in that moment of recognizing the boundary between the external event and your internal authority over it. So take a moment and look at your own life. Identify just one recurring source of stress for you right now. Is it a difficult relationship, a work project, a financial worry? Now, within that situation, draw a mental line. What elements truly lie outside your control, and what elements, specifically your judgments and your intended actions, remain firmly within your grasp? This simple act of separation is the first and most critical step toward reclaiming your peace. Marcus Aurelius described this inner space as a citadel, an unassailable fortress deep within your own mind. Its walls are not made of stone, but of your reasoned judgment and your values. While chaos and demands rage outside the gates like a besieging army, this inner citadel remains quiet and secure. It is a place you can retreat to at any moment, a sanctuary of perspective you carry with you always. The goal of Stoic practice is not to build higher walls to hide from the world, but to fortify this inner space so strongly that no external event, no matter how loud or alarming, can force its way in and command your peace. This is the true purpose of stillness, to grant you access to that inner room of calm. When a stressful situation arises, like a sharply worded email that instantly sparks anger, your first impulse is to fire back a reaction. That impulse is the outer siege beginning, but stillness is the act of turning your back on the noise at the gate and walking calmly into your citadel. Inside those walls, the blaring siren of the email becomes a distant hum. You can look at the words on the screen not as a personal attack you must counter, but as information you can assess with clarity. From this place of calm, you are no longer a puppet jerked by the strings of someone else's words. You become the author of your own response. You choose whether to answer with grace, to seek clarification, or to simply file it away without any emotional turmoil at all. The power shifts entirely because you operated from your center of command. So what does your inner citadel look like when it is truly at peace? Is it a quiet garden, a still lake, a library filled with wisdom? This is not just a daydream, it is the mental architecture of your resilience. By visualizing this space and visiting it through deliberate pauses, you strengthen its foundations every single day. Your inner citadel needs a guardian, and that guardian is a moment of pure attention. The Stoics called this practice proseuche, a constant, vigilant awareness of your own impressions and judgments. It is the art of the deliberate pause, a superpower hiding in plain sight between a trigger and your reply. In that tiny gap lies your entire freedom to choose. The philosopher Seneca, when writing about anger, gave the most practical advice. He said, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay. Do not attempt to calm yourself down in the heat of the moment, but simply postpone your reaction." Command yourself to wait. This single act of postponement creates the space for reason to return. Think of a modern conversation that turns heated, perhaps a debate with a family member or a tense meeting with a colleague. Your first impulse is to interrupt, to defend, to win the point. But what if, instead of speaking, you simply counted to 3 in the silence of your own mind? 1, 2, 3. In that brief span, the emotional wave begins to recede. You step out of the storm and into the quiet observation post of your awareness. You are no longer the anger itself, you are the one watching the anger. From that vantage point, you can see the situation with new eyes. You might realize the other person is speaking from their own stress or fear. You might see that your initial reaction was based on a misunderstanding, or you might simply recognize that a sharp reply now will only cause more conflict later. The pause did not solve the problem for you, it gave you the clarity to solve it wisely. Can you recall a recent conversation where just 3 seconds of silence before you spoke could have changed everything for the better? That is the untapped potential waiting in your next moment of friction. Your initial impression of any event is a raw signal, not the absolute truth. The Stoics understood this better than anyone, and they developed a powerful mental maneuver called withholding assent. This means you consciously choose not to immediately agree with your first automatic judgment. Epictetus put it perfectly when he said, "What troubles people is not things themselves, but their opinions about those things." The event is neutral until you assign a story to it. Think of a friend canceling plans at the last minute. Your initial, unexamined impression might scream, "They do not value our friendship, they are being disrespectful." That story feels like a fact, and it instantly creates hurt and anger. But that is just an impression, a single interpretation. The raw event itself is simply that a plan has changed. Withholding assent is the act of catching that initial story and saying, "Wait, this is just one possible narrative. It might not be the true one." You label the thought as it arises, mentally noting, this is an impression of rejection, not necessarily the reality. From that small space of non-agreement, other possibilities emerge. Perhaps your friend is overwhelmed with work, or a family emergency came up, or they are simply exhausted and need rest. The event did not change, but your relationship to it transforms completely when you stop treating your first thought as a command. For one day, try a simple experiment. Whenever you feel a surge of frustration or anxiety, pause and silently name the thought. Tell yourself, this is just an impression of threat, or this is just an impression of incompetence. By labeling it, you create a cognitive distance between the real you and the automatic judgment. You are no longer the thought, you are the observer of the thought. How many conflicts in your life are fueled not by events, but by your unchecked agreement with a story you told yourself in a split second? This profound acceptance is captured in two simple Latin words, Amor Fati, the love of one's fate. It is the ultimate expression of stillness in action, a complete embrace of reality exactly as it unfolds. The Stoics did not see this as passive resignation, but as the most active and empowering stance you can take toward life. The German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, centuries later, would echo this ancient wisdom, writing, "My formula for greatness in a human being is Amor Fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity." This is not about pretending that hardship is pleasant. It is about recognizing that every single event, especially the difficult and unexpected ones, is raw material for your growth and strength. Stillness grants you the clarity to stop fighting the current of reality and to start seeing the hidden handholds within the cliff face. Consider the story of the Stoic philosopher Zeno of Citium. He was a wealthy merchant, his life defined by his business and his cargo ships. Then, a terrible storm sank his entire fleet, wiping out his fortune in a single day. A man who had spent his life acquiring external things suddenly had nothing left but his own mind. Standing on the shores of Athens, destitute, he wandered into a bookshop and discovered the teachings of Socrates. This catastrophic loss, this event he never would have chosen, became the very catalyst that set him on a new path. He did not merely endure his fate, he fell in love with it. From the shipwreck of his old life, he built a new one, founding the school of Stoicism that would influence the world for millennia. The setback was not an obstacle to his life, it was the doorway. Amor Fati asks you to look at your own life with that same transformative vision. Think of a recent difficulty you have faced, a plan that fell apart, a rejection you did not expect. Your initial reaction was likely resistance, a mental struggle against what is. Now, reframe it through the lens of Amor Fati. Ask yourself, how can this very situation, exactly as it is, serve me? What strength might it be forcing me to develop? What new path is it secretly clearing for me? The event itself does not change, but your relationship to it shifts from one of conflict to one of collaboration. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstance and start becoming the architect of your response. There is a mental exercise that can shrink any problem down to its true size. The Stoics called it the view from above, and Marcus Aurelius practiced it daily to maintain his composure amid the immense pressures of ruling an empire. He would close his eyes, and in his mind, he would rise up, and away from the palace, from the city, from the very earth itself. He would visualize the vast expanse of the Roman Empire as a single point on the globe, and the globe itself as a mere speck in the infinite cosmos. He would then stretch his view across time, picturing the countless generations who had lived and died, and the countless more yet to come. From this cosmic vantage point, the day's political squabbles and personal insults appeared exactly as they were, tiny and transient, lost in the grand sweep of space and eternity. This was not an exercise in escapism, but in profound reorientation. It is about deliberately choosing the widest possible lens for your life. Consider a modern source of pure frustration, a traffic jam that has you trapped, making you late and boiling your blood. In the moment, it feels like the entire universe is conspiring against you. The car horns are deafening, and every minute feels like an hour. Now, apply the view from above. Picture yourself not in the car, but looking down from a satellite's view. You see your car as one tiny red taillight in a river of countless others. You see the entire city with its millions of inhabitants, each with their own urgent dreams and worries. You pull back further, seeing the continent, the planet spinning in the void. From here, the traffic jam is not a personal catastrophe. It is a minor, temporary congestion pattern on the surface of a pale blue dot. The event has not changed, but your relationship to it is utterly transformed. The frustration simply cannot maintain its intensity when viewed from such a grand scale. The next time a minor incident threatens to hijack your peace, try this. Take one deep breath and mentally zoom out. See the room you are in, the building, the town, the country, the world. Remember the vastness of time. Your urgent problem will almost always settle into a more manageable perspective, allowing your stillness to return. Your inner citadel finds its true strength not in its walls, but in the quality of the desires you allow inside. The Stoics identified a fundamental discipline for guarding this space, the careful management of what you pursue and what you avoid. Epictetus taught that our happiness depends entirely on aligning our desires with nature, which means desiring only what is truly good and within our power, and being averse only to what is truly bad. This sounds simple, but it requires a radical reordering of your priorities. You must train yourself to desire only virtue, your own moral character and right action, and to be averse only to vice, the choices that would corrupt your integrity. Everything else, all the external prizes and punishments the world offers, must become matters of indifference to your core peace. Think about the common desire for recognition at work. When your primary goal is the external reward, the promotion or the praise from your boss, you hand over your tranquility to someone else's opinion. Your happiness dangles from a thread they hold. If the recognition comes, you feel temporary elation. If it does not, you plummet into frustration and self-doubt. You are on a roller coaster you did not build and cannot control. Now shift your desire inward. Make your sole focus the quality of your work itself. Desire to be diligent, creative, and ethical in your tasks. This is a desire fully within your power to fulfill. Whether or not external recognition follows, you have already achieved your goal. You have acted with virtue. The stillness you feel is the satisfaction of a job well done, a reward no one can ever take from you. So look closely at the landscape of your own wants. What is one desire for an external outcome, for a specific result you cannot fully command, that you could consciously release today? Letting go of that single tug on your peace creates an immediate and profound sense of calm, because you have just reclaimed a piece of your soul from the world. This unshakable core has a name in Stoic philosophy, a word that signifies the ultimate aim of all this inner work. They called it Eudaimonia, a state of flourishing that comes from living in full alignment with your deepest virtues. It is not a fleeting feeling of happiness dependent on good news or a pay raise. It is the profound, lasting satisfaction of a life well lived, a life of purpose and moral integrity. Seneca drew the line with perfect clarity when he wrote, "What is the difference between the fool and the wise man? The fool is disturbed by external things, while the wise man is disturbed only by his own faults." The fool's entire world is built on a foundation of sand, constantly shifting with every compliment or criticism from the outside. The wise man, in contrast, has built his home on the solid rock of his own character. His only true concern is whether his own actions are just and honorable. When you stop reacting to every external event, you are not building a wall to hide behind. You are laying down, layer by layer, the bedrock of this unshakable core. Think of a great oak tree with roots that plunge deep into the earth. The winds may howl, bending the branches of smaller shrubs, but the oak stands firm. It does not waste its energy fighting the wind. Its strength comes from its deep, hidden connection to the ground. Your virtues are those roots, your integrity, your courage, your compassion, your wisdom. These are not swayed by a negative comment, a financial setback, or a change of plans. They are what remain when everything else is stripped away. So what is one virtue you feel could serve as your deepest root right now? Perhaps it is the courage to speak your truth in a difficult situation, or the patience to listen without interrupting, or the integrity to do the right thing even when no one is watching. Choose just one. Make a quiet commitment to yourself to strengthen that single root this week. Every time you feel the wind of an external event trying to push you, remember your root. Feel it anchoring you. Your peace is no longer something the world can give or take away. It has become who you are. Our culture tells us to seek comfort at every turn, but the Stoics saw this as a subtle trap. Seneca himself would deliberately practice poverty. He would set aside a few days each month to wear his oldest clothes, eat only the plainest bread, and sleep on a hard bed. He was not punishing himself, he was conducting a profound experiment in freedom. By voluntarily stepping into discomfort, he was proving to his own mind that these conditions held no real power over his peace. He was inoculating himself against the fear of loss. He wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" This practice shatters the illusion that happiness depends on external circumstances. It trains you to find your security not in your possessions, but in your unshakable capacity to endure. A modern equivalent could be as simple as taking a cold shower. When that first shock of cold water hits, your entire body screams in protest. Your first impulse is to leap back into the warmth. But if you stay, if you breathe through the initial discomfort and simply observe the sensation without fighting it, you are doing more than just getting clean. You are having a direct conversation with your own reactivity. You are proving to yourself that you can stand in an unpleasant situation and remain the calm, conscious author of your experience. You are building a firewall against the petty annoyances and larger hardships that life will inevitably send your way. What small discomfort could you voluntarily embrace this week to train this muscle of resilience? It might be skipping a meal to feel hunger and know it will not break you. It could be walking a different, longer route to work. Each small, chosen hardship is a deposit into your inner citadel, a brick laid in the wall that says, "I am more than my comfort. I am the master of my reactions." The true test of your inner citadel unfolds not in solitude, but in conversation. Every discussion is a potential battlefield for your peace, where reactive words can dismantle in seconds the stillness you have carefully built. The Stoic approach to communication is a discipline of profound listening. Epictetus offered a simple, physical reminder of this priority when he said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." This is not merely a clever saying, it is an operating manual for wise interaction. Most of us enter conversations with our inner monologue already running, drafting our rebuttal while the other person is still talking. We are listening to reply, not to understand. This reactive stance turns dialogue into a duel of monologues, where the goal is to win rather than to connect or discover. True stillness in communication means silencing that internal strategist. It means offering your full, undivided attention to the person speaking, absorbing their words without the filter of your own prepared argument. Imagine you are in a meeting where a colleague strongly criticizes your proposal. Your body tenses, your heart rate jumps, and a list of defensive points instantly floods your mind. The reactive path is to interrupt, to defend your idea the moment they pause for breath, but the Stoic path is to lean into the discomfort. You consciously relax your shoulders, you keep your eyes on them, and you simply listen. You do not just hear the words, you listen for the concern beneath them. Perhaps their criticism, though poorly delivered, reveals a genuine risk you had overlooked. By fully receiving their message without launching your counter-message, you transform the energy of the exchange. The conversation shifts from a conflict to a collaboration. Your thoughtful silence, followed by a question for clarification, disarms the tension and often leads to a more robust, productive solution than any quick retort could have achieved. Your power in that moment came not from speaking, but from your ability to hold a space of quiet receptivity. In your very next conversation, make this your practice. Whether you are talking with a partner, a child, or a coworker, commit to listening with the sole purpose of understanding their perspective. Let go of the need to formulate your response while they speak. Notice how this simple shift changes the dynamic, how it drains the urgency from the exchange and replaces it with a grounding sense of clarity. This is where philosophy meets the pavement of your daily life. Your inbox is a master of manufactured emergencies. That red notification dot screams for attention, creating a false crisis where none truly exists. This is the illusion of urgency, a modern cult of busyness that keeps us in a constant state of reactive anxiety. From a Stoic standpoint, this is a fundamental misplacement of our precious attention. Marcus Aurelius, while leading military campaigns and managing an empire, would constantly remind himself of life's breathtaking brevity. He wrote, "Remember how long you have been putting this off, and how many times you have been given a period of grace but did not use it." He was not urging himself to work faster, but to discern better. He understood that a life spent reacting to every seeming emergency is a life wasted on trivialities. Most of what we label as urgent is merely someone else's priority, or an arbitrary deadline that holds no real weight against the scale of a human life. Think about that email marked as high importance, the one that arrives with a subject line screaming for an immediate reply. Your body tenses, your mind jumps to it, and you feel compelled to drop everything to respond. But what if, instead of reacting, you paused? What if you closed the application and took just 5 minutes to walk away? In that space of stillness, you would likely realize the email is not a life or death situation. It is a request that can be handled with intention later, not a demand that must be met this very second. The urgency was an illusion created by the medium itself, not by the content's true importance. So ask yourself this one question with complete honesty. What single thing in your life do you treat as an urgent, immediate problem that, upon calm reflection, is not truly important at all? Naming it is the first step in breaking its spell. There is a hidden art to seeing the world exactly as it is, without the constant commentary of your own judgments. This is the practice of observation, a silent discipline that quiets the internal noise and reveals reality in its pure form. The Stoics called this apatheia, a state of mind free from the unhealthy passions stirred by labeling everything as good or bad. It is not about becoming cold or detached, but about achieving a profound clarity where you can perceive events without being emotionally hijacked by them. Every time you assign a value judgment to something outside your control, you hand over a piece of your peace. You build a story around an event, and then you react to your own story as if it were an undeniable fact. Think of the last time you were driving and another car abruptly cut you off. The raw event is simple: a vehicle changed lanes, but your mind instantly constructs a narrative. That driver is reckless, selfish, and inconsiderate. This judgment feels true, and it triggers a surge of anger. Your heart pounds, and you might even shout or honk. You are now in a state of conflict, not with the other car, but with the story you created about its driver. Judgment-free observation asks you to strip away that narrative. You simply note the facts. A car moved into my lane, that is all. From this place of stillness, the emotional charge vanishes. You see the action not as a personal insult, but as a neutral occurrence on the road. You might even consider another possibility, that the driver is distracted by an emergency or simply made a mistake. This shift does not excuse poor driving, but it completely changes your internal experience of it. Your peace remains intact because you refuse to agree with the initial judgmental impression. Now bring this practice closer to home. Bring to mind a person in your life you often find yourself judging, perhaps a coworker who seems lazy or a relative who is always critical. Notice the labels you automatically assign to them. Now try to see them for just a moment without any of those stories. Observe their actions as if you were a scientist studying an unknown species, with pure curiosity and zero evaluation. What do you see when you strip away the words lazy or critical? You might see a person who is overwhelmed and lacks motivation, or someone who is deeply insecure and uses criticism as a shield. This neutral observation is not an act of approval, it is an act of understanding, and understanding is the bedrock of compassion, which is the ultimate expression of a still and unshakable mind. This present moment is the only place where your stillness can truly breathe. While your mind races through regrets of yesterday or worries about tomorrow, your feet are firmly planted in the eternal now, a space untouched by past mistakes or future uncertainties. Anxiety cannot live here because anxiety is a ghost that feeds only on memories and imaginations. Seneca saw this with piercing clarity, observing that we are often more afflicted in our thoughts about a problem than by the problem itself. A future presentation, a difficult conversation you must have next week. These events are not happening, but your mind reacts to the story you are telling about them, creating a phantom reality of suffering that feels entirely real. Stillness is the act of pulling your attention back from those phantom worlds and into the solid ground of your current reality. Right now, as you hear these words, you are likely safe. Your body is supported, you are breathing. The loudest emergency is almost always a silent one, manufactured entirely inside your own head. A powerful way to practice this homecoming is through a single, conscious minute of breath. You do not need to change your breathing or force it to be deep. Simply become aware of it. Feel the cool air entering your nostrils, the gentle rise of your chest or belly, the slight pause, and the soft release of the warm air as it leaves your body. For 60 seconds, let your entire world shrink to this one simple physical rhythm. In that minute, you are not worrying about a deadline. You are not replaying an argument. You are just here with the breath. This is not avoiding your problems, it is regaining the clarity and calm needed to face them effectively. The next time you feel the familiar pull of anxiety about what might happen, pause. Set a timer for 1 minute and let your anchor drop into the sensations of your own breathing. Notice how the storm of tomorrow simply cannot rage in the profound quiet of today. Every screen you own is designed to trigger that reactive impulse, to pull you out of your inner citadel and into the digital fray. The endless scroll of social media and the 24-hour news cycle are modern arenas built on immediacy, where every post and headline demands a swift judgment, a like, an angry comment, a share. This is where your Stoic practice faces its most constant and subtle test. The principle of stillness is not just for the quiet of your own mind. It is a vital tool for navigating this noisy digital world. Introduce the Stoic pause before your finger taps the like button, before you type a reactive comment, before you even absorb the next piece of content. Institute a deliberate pause. It is a breath, a moment of conscious return to your center. You are not a machine programmed to respond. You are a human being exercising your power to choose your engagement. Consider the provocative headline engineered to spark outrage. Your initial impression is a surge of anger or indignation, a story instantly forming about the foolishness or malice of others. The reactive path is to click, to read the comments and add your own furious voice to the chorus, to share it and spread the emotional contagion. But the Stoic pause asks you to withhold your assent. See the headline for what it is, a string of words designed to capture your attention through emotional leverage. From your inner citadel, you can observe it without being captured by it. You can choose to not click. You can choose to not feed the outrage machine with your own energy. Your power is not in adding to the noise, but in preserving your quiet. To build this muscle, consider a practical digital detox for a set period each day. This is not about abandoning technology, but about reclaiming your sovereignty over it. Commit to 1 single hour of complete digital silence. No phone, no notifications, no screens. In that hour, you are not missing out on anything urgent. You are making a profound statement about what is truly important, your own peace. You are giving your mind the space to settle, to remember its own rhythms away from the constant pull of external demands. In that quiet hour, where does your mind naturally go when it is no longer being told what to think about? Resilience is the quiet strength of a tree that bends in a storm but does not break. We often mistake it for a hardened shell, a kind of emotional armor we must build up. True resilience, the Stoics would argue, is not about being tough enough to withstand the blow, but about being so centered that the blow simply does not land. It is the emotional endurance built through the consistent practice of non-reaction. Consider the Roman senator Cato the Younger, a man of unwavering principle who made himself a living monument to Stoicism. His political enemies would go to absurd lengths to provoke him, even pulling his toga and shouting insults in his face during crucial debates. Yet, historical accounts describe Cato as maintaining an almost supernatural calm. He would simply adjust his clothing and continue speaking, his composure unbroken. This was not a man who felt no anger. It was a man who refused to let anger become the author of his actions. His resilience was not in fighting back, but in the profound stillness that made the attacks irrelevant. His center of gravity was so low that no external push could topple him. Now bring this into your own world. Imagine receiving a harsh, public critique of your work during a team meeting. The immediate, reactive path is one of defensiveness. Your face flushes, your heart hammers, and you scramble to justify every point to prove the critic wrong. This reaction, while understandable, drains your energy and often escalates the conflict. The resilient path, the Cato-like path, is different. You feel the initial sting, you acknowledge the impulse to fire back, and then you consciously choose to let the wave of criticism wash over you without carrying you away. You breathe, you listen, and you respond not to the emotion behind the words, but to the content within them. You might say, "Thank you for that feedback, I will consider it carefully." This calm composure is not weakness, it is a formidable display of power. It communicates that your sense of worth is not so fragile that it can be shattered by a single opinion. Think of the most resilient person you know. It might be a colleague, a family member, or a friend. What is it about their nature that you admire? Chances are, it is not that they never face difficulties, but that they are not easily thrown by them. They possess a certain steadiness, a quality of not being jerked around by every piece of bad news or negative comment. This is the resilience you are building every time you choose a pause over a reaction, every time you retreat to your inner citadel instead of fighting at the gates. This endurance grows stronger with each small, conscious choice to remain the calm at the center of your own storm. Stillness is the birthplace of truly effective action. When you cease reacting to every impulse and external demand, you begin to operate from a place of deep intention. This is what the Stoics understood as the economy of action, a principle of doing only what is necessary and virtuous, wasting neither energy nor focus on the trivial. Marcus Aurelius commanded himself in his private writings, "Ask yourself at every moment, is this necessary?" He was not advocating for laziness, but for a razor-sharp discernment that cuts away all motion that does not serve a higher purpose. Impulsive action is born from a mind in turmoil, a frantic scrambling to quiet the noise. It is the leader who, upon hearing alarming market news, immediately freezes hiring and slashes budgets, creating a ripple of panic through the entire organization. That decision was not an action, it was a reaction, a reflex driven by fear. Its consequences are often messy and require further reactive corrections. Consider instead the leader who receives the same troubling news. They feel the same initial jolt of alarm, the same pressure to do something, anything, right now. But they have cultivated stillness. They retreat to their inner citadel, not to hide, but to gain clarity. They let the initial wave of panic subside. From that calm center, they can assess the information objectively. They can separate the real threats from the perceived ones. They can consult their core values and long-term strategy. The action that emerges from this stillness is not a panicked slash, but a strategic pivot. It might be a measured reallocation of resources, a transparent conversation with the team about challenges and opportunities, or a decision to double down on a core strength. This action is deliberate, aligned with principle, and far more likely to lead to a stable outcome. It is not about doing more, but about doing what truly matters. Look back on your own week and identify a single action you took that felt rushed or reactive. Perhaps you sent an email in frustration, made an impulsive purchase to soothe a bad mood, or agreed to a commitment you instantly regretted. Now replay that moment with the lens of stillness. If you had gifted yourself just 5 minutes of quiet contemplation before acting, what different choice might have emerged from that calm? The space between a trigger and your response is not empty, it is fertile ground for wiser decisions. The chains of your past are the heaviest weight your mind can carry. Every time you react with disproportionate anger to a minor slight, or feel a wave of insecurity from a simple comment, you are not responding to the present moment. You are reenacting an old story, one written by a hurt that happened long ago. The Stoics understood that this is the most insidious form of reactivity, where a ghost from yesterday dictates your actions today. Epictetus, with his characteristic bluntness, cut to the heart of the matter. He said, "The past is nothing to us, for it is gone and beyond our help." It is a ship that has sailed, and no amount of yearning or regret can call it back to shore. To cling to it is to hand over your present peace to an event you can no longer influence, a transaction that guarantees only loss. The Stoic path is not to forget the past, but to accept its finality with a clear and quiet mind. Your history, with all its joys and wounds, is an external event. It is fixed, it is not up to you, but the meaning you assign to it today and the action you choose to take right now, these remain entirely within your command. Consider the act of forgiveness, often misunderstood as something you do for the other person. From a Stoic view, forgiveness is a strategic release you perform for your own freedom. Holding onto a grudge is like drinking poison and hoping the other person gets sick. You are the one carrying the toxicity, reliving the hurt each time the memory surfaces. To forgive is not to condone the action or even to reconcile with the person. It is to consciously decide that a past event will no longer rent space in your mind for free. It is to declare that your peace is more valuable than your pain. You set down the heavy burden not because they deserve it, but because you deserve to walk unencumbered. Look inward for a moment at the landscape of your own memories. What single story from your past are you ready to stop reacting to? Is it the criticism from a parent that still echoes in your self-talk? The betrayal by a friend that makes you wary of new connections? That story is a finished chapter. You cannot edit it, but you can close the book on its power to dictate your next chapter. Your power lies not in rewriting what was, but in authoring what is with the virtuous ink of your present choices. Patience is the quiet engine of resilience, a deliberate strength that has nothing to do with passive waiting. The Stoics saw it as an active form of wisdom, the conscious decision to endure necessary discomfort without the internal noise of complaint or resistance. It is trusting the process of events that lie within your control, while accepting with grace those that do not. Seneca, who faced exile and chronic illness, wrote that patience is the greatest remedy for every difficulty. He was not talking about gritting your teeth until a problem passes. He meant cultivating an inner spaciousness that allows life to unfold at its own pace without your frantic interference. This is the strength of the deep ocean current, unseen but powerful, rather than the frantic crashing of surface waves. Think of a long-term goal you are working toward, perhaps learning a complex skill, building a business, or improving a relationship. The reactive mind fixates only on the distant finish line. It measures your progress each day and grows discouraged by the slow, incremental gains. It whispers that you are not moving fast enough, that you should be further along by now. This impatience is a form of suffering you add to the natural challenge of the work itself. The Stoic approach is to shift your focus from the uncontrollable outcome to the virtuous action of the present moment. Your goal is not to become a master musician in 1 year, a result you cannot command. Your goal is to practice with focused attention for 30 minutes today. That small, disciplined session is a complete success in itself, a perfect expression of patience. The final achievement is merely the eventual byproduct of countless such patient days. Where in your life right now is impatience stealing your peace? Is it in the slow progress of a creative project, the gradual mending of a friendship, or the long wait for a career opportunity? Identify that single area. Now, make a quiet pact with yourself to release the demand for a faster timeline. Pour your energy entirely into the quality of the very next small step you can take. The reward is not just a future accomplishment, but the profound calm you discover in the process itself. Your mind's fortress has a physical gatekeeper, your own body. The Stoics were masters of this connection, understanding that a turbulent mind creates a tense body, and a calm body can guide the mind back to stillness. Your posture, your breath, the very set of your jaw, these are not just effects of your mental state, they are active participants in creating it. To cultivate inner peace, you must first become the architect of your own physical composure. When you choose to steady your breathing in a moment of panic, you are not just managing a symptom, you are sending a direct command to your nervous system, a message that says, we are not under attack, we can remain in control. Think of a time you had to deliver difficult news or navigate a tense confrontation. Your heart was likely pounding, your muscles tight. The reactive path is to let that physical agitation dictate your tone, leading to a shaky voice or sharp words. But if in that very moment you consciously drop your shoulders, plant your feet firmly on the floor, and take one slow, deliberate breath, something remarkable happens. The external situation has not changed, but your internal landscape begins to settle. By commanding a calm exterior, you create a feedback loop that persuades your mind toward that same calm. This is not about suppressing emotion, but about using the body as a lever to regain command of your inner citadel. So bring your attention into your body right now. Notice without judgment where you hold your tension. Is it a tightness in your neck, a clenching in your stomach, a furrow in your brow? Simply become aware of it. Now, on your next exhale, see if you can release just one of those points of holding, letting that specific muscle go soft. This small, physical act of release is a direct strike against the tyranny of reactivity. It is a quiet declaration that your peace is not for the world to dictate, but for you to physically claim, breath by breath and moment by moment. This profound liberation rests on a single, often misunderstood idea: the freedom of indifference. For the Stoics, the term indifference, or adiaphora, did not mean a cold, uncaring apathy toward the world. It signified a clear-eyed understanding that external things, in their own nature, are neither good nor bad. They are simply neutral. Your wealth, your social status, your reputation, even the health of your body, these are not inherently virtuous or vicious. They are preferred or dispreferred indifference, materials to be used well or poorly by the only thing that is truly good, your virtuous character. Grasping this distinction is like being handed a key to a prison you did not even know you were in. Epictetus, who began his life in chains, understood this freedom better than anyone. He advised his students never say of anything, "I have lost it," but only, "I have given it back." Is your child dead? It has been given back. Is your wife dead? She has been given back. This is not a callous dismissal of love, but the ultimate preparation for the nature of a world where everything on the outside is on loan. When you internalize that your possessions, your roles, and your relationships are gifts to be cared for but never truly owned, you sever the chain of reactive attachment. The praise of others becomes a pleasant breeze that you enjoy but do not depend on for your warmth. Their blame becomes an unpleasant wind that may chill you but cannot freeze your core. You are no longer elated by the promotion because your self-worth was never tied to the job title. You are not crushed by the criticism because your integrity was never for sale to public opinion. Your happiness becomes an internal achievement, independent of the fluctuating rewards and punishments of the external world. So take a quiet moment and look at the landscape of your own attachments. What three external things, those preferred indifference, do you find yourself clutching too tightly? Is it the desire for a specific level of income, the need for a particular person's approval, or the attachment to a flawless public image? Write them down not as a confession of weakness, but as a map of your path to greater freedom. To see these things as merely indifferent is to hold them in an open hand, ready to appreciate their presence, and equally ready to release them without devastation when the time comes. Your reactive self is the part of you that screams when things go wrong. Your rational nature is the part that knows screaming solves nothing. Stoicism guides us to live in accordance with nature and reason, the very source of that inner stillness we have been building. This is not the nature of forests and mountains, but human nature at its highest potential, the core of who you are designed to be. Marcus Aurelius wrote of the logos, a universal reason that weaves through all things, a rational principle governing the cosmos. To live against this current, to fight the fundamental nature of reality with our petty demands and emotional eruptions, is to create our own suffering. Your rational mind is a fragment of that cosmic intelligence, and stillness is the sound it makes when it is perfectly aligned. Think of a powerful river flowing steadily toward the sea. You are in that river. If you thrash against the current, fighting to go upstream because you dislike the direction, you will exhaust yourself and drown in the struggle. Your reactive emotions are that thrashing, but if you relax, turn your body to float with the current, you are carried forward with effortless grace. The river's direction has not changed, but your relationship to its power has transformed from one of conflict to one of collaboration. This is the peace of living according to nature and reason. You stop arguing with what is and start working with the materials you have been given. Look at a single area of your life where turbulence is a constant companion. Perhaps it is your daily commute, where every slow driver is a personal affront to your schedule. Your reactive nature demands the traffic obey you, creating a daily ritual of frustration. Your rational nature understands that traffic is a natural phenomenon of crowded cities, a current you cannot change. The stillness emerges when you consciously align with that rational truth. You leave earlier, you accept the delay, you use the time to listen to something enriching. You have stopped thrashing and started floating. Where could you stop fighting the current of your own life today? There is a practice that turns fear into its own antidote, a mental rehearsal for hardship that the Stoics called Premeditatio Malorum. This is the premeditation of evils, a deliberate and calm contemplation of potential losses or difficulties. It is not an exercise in pessimism, but in psychological preparedness. By visiting these possibilities in the quiet of your own mind, you strip away their power to shock you with panic when, or if, they ever arrive. You are vaccinating your peace against the virus of future misfortune. Seneca advised his friend Lucilius to live with this awareness, writing, "You must remind yourself that the one you love is mortal, that what you love is not your own. It does not last forever, nor is it given to you for all time, but like a fig or a bunch of grapes, it is for a season." This reflection is not meant to sadden you, but to make you value the present more deeply and to face the future without the terror of the unexpected. Consider a modern fear that haunts so many: the sudden loss of a job. The reactive mind treats this possibility like a monster in the dark, a vague and terrifying shape that must be avoided at all costs. The anxiety is constant, a low hum of dread about an email, a meeting, a quarterly report. This fear itself becomes a form of suffering, a phantom job loss you experience every single day. Now apply the premeditation of evils. Sit quietly and bring this fear into the light. Do not run from it, invite it in. Visualize with a calm and steady mind the scenario unfolding. You are called into a room and told your position is being eliminated. You feel the initial sting, the disorientation. Then you watch yourself from the stillness of your inner citadel. You see yourself collecting your belongings. You feel the temporary uncertainty, but you also see yourself accessing savings you wisely prepared. You picture yourself updating your resume. You envision reaching out to your network. You are not destroyed. You are navigating a difficult transition with dignity and purpose. By pre-living the event in your mind, you transform it from an unimaginable catastrophe into a manageable, though challenging, life event. The anxiety loses its fangs because you have already walked through the fear and found your feet on the other side. So what is the one thing you secretly fear losing most? Is it your health, a specific relationship, your financial security? For just a moment, do not look away. How might visualizing its potential loss, not with dread but with a quiet and courageous clarity, actually reduce the anxious power it holds over your present peace? Anger is a brief insanity, a fire that burns the hand of the one who carries it. Seneca dedicated an entire volume to this single emotion, warning that nothing is more destructive, more antithetical to reason and stillness. He saw anger not as a powerful force to be harnessed, but as a sickness of the soul to be cured. The moment you feel its heat rising in your chest, you are already beginning to lose your grip on reality, constructing a world where your reaction is justified and necessary. But the Stoic knows this is an illusion. The pause, that sacred space of stillness, is the only antidote. It is the cold water thrown on the flames of a temporary madness. Picture a typical morning scenario. You have just cleaned your car, spending time on every detail, and you come outside to find a neighbor has parked too close, their door slamming into your freshly washed paint and leaving a noticeable scratch. The surge of fury is instantaneous. Your jaw clenches, your face flushes, and a script of confrontation immediately plays in your mind. Every instinct screams to march over and demand an apology, to make them feel the cost of their carelessness. This is the fire. The Stoic response begins not with an action but with an inaction. You feel the impulse to storm over, and you consciously choose to do the opposite. You stand still, you take one breath, then another. You turn away from their house and walk back inside your own. This is not weakness or avoidance. It is a strategic retreat into your inner citadel. Inside those quiet walls, the heat begins to dissipate. You can now reassess the impression. The raw event is a scratch on a car. Your initial judgment was that this was a personal insult, an act of profound disrespect. But from your center of calm, other narratives emerge. Perhaps your neighbor was distracted by a crying child. Maybe they did not even notice. The scratch, while annoying, is a superficial mark on a possession, an external indifferent that has no power to corrupt your character unless you allow it to. From this place of reason, you can now choose a response. You might decide to calmly mention it later, not as an accusation but as a simple fact. You might even choose to let it go entirely, valuing your peace more than the perfection of your car's paint. The outcome is no longer driven by blind fury, but by deliberate choice. Can you recall the last time anger seized you? Replay that moment now. What would have happened if, between the trigger and your reaction, you had gifted yourself just 10 seconds of pure, silent stillness? That small pocket of quiet could have changed the entire course of the event, preserving your dignity and your peace. Your personal struggles are not isolated battles, but ripples in a vast, interconnected ocean. The ancient Stoics named this profound truth sympatheia, the understanding that the entire cosmos is a single, breathing entity, and we are individual cells within its greater body. When you grasp this, the noisy demands of your ego begin to quiet, and a deep, abiding calm settles in. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself, "Meditate often on the interconnectedness of all things in the universe." For in a way, all things are mutually intertwined, and thus they have a kind of love for one another. The universe itself is a single living being with one substance and one soul. This is not a poetic metaphor, but a philosophical reality. Your existence is woven into the same fabric as the person who annoys you, the tree outside your window, and the distant stars. When you react with anger or frustration toward someone, you are, in a very real sense, a part of the whole, momentarily at war with itself. Consider a recent conflict, perhaps a bitter disagreement with a coworker over a project's direction. Your reactive ego sees only an opponent, a separate will blocking your own. It feels like a tug of war between two isolated islands, but the perspective of sympatheia asks you to see a different picture. You and your colleague are not two separate islands. You are two branches on the same tree, both drawing life from the same root system of shared company goals and human purpose. The conflict is not a battle between good and evil, but a temporary misalignment, a misunderstanding between two parts of the same whole, both ultimately wanting the tree to thrive. From this vantage point, your defensive posture softens. You can approach the disagreement not to defeat the other branch, but to understand why it is growing in a different direction and to find a harmonious way to grow together. The energy you would have spent on winning the argument is redirected toward understanding the system itself. Look at one current tension in your own life. It could be a friction with a neighbor, a family dispute, or a political disagreement with a friend. Now, for just a moment, reframe it through the lens of sympathy. See the two of you not as adversaries, but as different expressions of the same interconnected reality. How does this shift in perspective alter the weight of your frustration? Does the need for a reactive, ego-driven victory not start to feel less urgent, replaced by a quieter desire for a resolution that serves the health of the whole? The day's final quiet moments hold a secret power for cultivating the stillness you seek. This is the Stoic practice of the evening review, a deliberate and gentle examination of the day now past. Before sleep claims you, you retreat one last time into your inner citadel, not to judge yourself harshly, but to learn with the calm eyes of an observer. The goal is not to tally failures, but to strengthen your awareness for the day to come. Find just 5 minutes of quiet, sit comfortably, and let the day's events play back in your mind like a silent film. Begin by asking a simple, constructive question. What was one thing I did well today? Perhaps you managed to pause before sending a reactive email, or you listened fully to a friend without preparing your reply. Acknowledge that small victory, for it reinforces the neural pathways of your chosen stillness. Next, ask with equal gentleness, where did I fall short of my principles? Did I lose my patience in a long line or agree with a judgmental story about a colleague? Identify the moment without self-condemnation. See it clearly as a misstep, not a character flaw. This is where growth is seeded. Finally, and most importantly, examine your judgments. What initial impressions did I accept as truth today? Did I decide a cancelled plan was a sign of disrespect, or that a critical comment was a final verdict on my abilities? Unpack those automatic narratives. See them for the fleeting impressions they were, not the solid facts they pretended to be. This 3-part review, focusing on a strength, an area for improvement, and an examined judgment, transforms your day from a series of random events into a structured lesson in living. Your life becomes your curriculum, and each evening you quietly grade your own progress in the art of peace. Tonight, before you close your eyes, gift yourself these 5 minutes. Let this practice be the gentle gate that closes on the day's noise, securing the quiet within your walls until morning. No one can build the walls of your inner world but you, and no one can tear them down without your consent. Epictetus, the philosopher who knew true power lies not in circumstance but in response, put it with unshakable clarity. He said, "Remember, it is not the person who insults or attacks you who harms you, but the view you take of these things as being harmful." Your inner self remains untouched, a sovereign territory, until you yourself open the gates and invite the chaos inside. The world outside is a constant storm of noise, demand, and unpredictability. Traffic jams, harsh words, shifting expectations, these are the weather patterns of a reality you cannot control. They will rage and bluster, and they will do so whether you grant them your attention or not. But within you exists the potential for a completely different reality, a kingdom of ordered thought and profound peace. This inner world is governed by your own reasoned judgments and your deepest values. It is a space where you decide what enters, what it means, and how you will respond. The ultimate power of stillness is this realization, that your peace is not a fragile object to be protected from the world, but a fortress you actively choose to inhabit and rule. The outer chaos is a given, but the inner order is a choice you make moment by moment. So if your inner world is your kingdom, what kind of ruler are you being? Are you a wise and steady sovereign, presiding over your thoughts with justice and discernment? Or are you a panicked despot, easily provoked and overthrown by every passing messenger from the outside? The quality of your entire life depends on the answer you live, not just the one you give. That frantic need to prove yourself, to win every argument and control every outcome, is a deep and exhausting hunger. It can never be satisfied because it looks for its food in the wrong place. Real confidence is not a loud performance for the outside world. It is a quiet knowing that comes from one place alone, the certainty that you are living by your own deepest principles. When your actions align with your virtues, you have nothing to defend and no one to impress. This is the silent confidence of virtue, and it is the ultimate fruit of a still mind. A person who is loudly reactive, who must always have the last word or dominate a conversation, is not displaying strength. They are revealing a deep insecurity, a fragile self-worth that depends entirely on external validation. Their peace is a hostage to every opinion and every perceived slight. In stark contrast, the person who acts from virtue carries a profound stillness. They do not need to posture or prove a point because their worth is an internal fact already settled. Marcus Aurelius captured this perfectly in his private meditations, writing, "How much trouble he avoids who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does or thinks, but only to what he does himself, that it may be just and pure." The tranquility he describes is the direct result of a good conscience, a soul that is at peace with its own choices. Think of a time you witnessed someone calmly hold their ground against unfair pressure. They did not shout or become defensive. They simply stated their position with quiet conviction, their composure unbroken by the storm around them. That unshakable calm was not a personality trait. It was the outward glow of an inner alignment. They were confident because they knew, in the privacy of their own heart, that they were acting with integrity. That knowledge is a shield no insult can pierce. So look at your own day ahead. What is one single action you can take, for no other reason than that it is the right and virtuous thing to do? It might be admitting a small mistake at work instead of hiding it. It could be offering genuine praise to a colleague without any expectation of return. Or perhaps it is simply choosing to do your work with full attention, even when no one is watching. Perform this one action with the quiet understanding that its true reward is not in the outcome, but in the strengthening of your own character. That is how you build a confidence that the world cannot give and the world cannot take away. Stillness is not a void, but a fertile ground where your true power takes root. This quiet space is where you reclaim your freedom to choose your response, rather than being compelled by every external trigger. Throughout this journey, we have explored the profound transformations that unfold when you stop reacting. You gain a clarity that cuts through the chaos of daily life. You build a resilience that allows you to bend without breaking in the face of adversity. You discover a freedom that is not dependent on your circumstances, and you cultivate an inner peace that becomes your unshakable core. These are not distant ideals, but living realities forged through the daily, deliberate practices of Stoicism. The pause before you speak, the withholding of assent from a judgmental thought, the loving acceptance of your fate. Each of these small acts builds the architecture of your calm. Seneca beautifully captured the ultimate reward of this work, writing, "The mind that is untroubled and tranquil is a citadel, for human beings have no stronger fortress in which to find refuge and remain safe for all time." Your refuge is not built of stone, but of your own ordered mind. This peace is your birthright, waiting to be claimed through consistent practice. Do not feel you must master everything at once. Choose just one practice from our discussion that resonated with you. Perhaps it is the evening review of your day, or the deliberate pause before you open a demanding email, or the simple act of observing a frustrating event without immediately labeling it as bad. Begin there. We will be honored to hear about your experiences in the comments below. What does stillness feel like in your own life? Share your journey and subscribe for more explorations into the timeless wisdom of Stoicism.